Njengoba ke March i-Consumer Month inyanga ke egubha emalungelo ebathengi phecelezi i-Consumer Rights Month seyifikela emaphethelweni. Bathengi balapha eNingizimu Afrika batilungiselela ke tinguquko tetimali letimenyetele ku-budget speech yalo mnyaka. Khumbula ke mbukele ukuthi emva kwesikhashana ke sineketa lithuba lekuthi usishayele licingo khona la e-studio ubute umbuto noma ke ubeke umbono. You can also share your thoughts on our social media platforms or on our email. Mina ke ngisimpiye ngicongana kanze ke leli Yilungelo Lakho asingene endzabeni namhla. Tough times lie ahead for South African consumers from the 1st of April. Now, this is when we'll be paying 1% more in value-added tax for most of the goods and services we buy. 1% may sound like a small increase for some, but hey, put that 1% increase on every item in your shopping basket, banking fees, loans and services. Then you will realize that you are in for a financial reality check. Ngaphambi kokuthi sive ukuthi ke lokunyuka kwentsela kutayishintsha kanjani impilo yethu, asibuke nangumbiko lesondele ngizidlela mina Mgabe.
Uhulumeni uthathe isinqumo sokuthi athathe anyuse izinga lentela elizosenyusela imali ebalelwa kumabhiliyoni angama-36 ikakhulukazi ngokwenyusa intela ebizwa nge-VAT.
I-VAT yintsela lesiyibhadala njalo uma sithenga. Ibonakala etiliphini. Lentsela iya South African Revenue Services noma SARS ngalamafishane.
The main tax proposals for the 2018 budget are an increase in the value-added tax rate from 14 to 15%.
Sekuphele cishe iminyaka lengu-25, intsela ihleli ku-14% lapha eNingizimu Afrika, kanti nebathengi sebayetayele. Kepha kusukela mhla ka-1 April 2018, itawenyuka nga 1%.
It means that on every 1,000 rand a consumer ebhatala, you must pay 100 rand extra.
Kanzi nabo somabhizinisi sebaqalile kulungiselela letinguquko.
I'm a Vodacom subscriber, so they've already sent messages which is going to be 2 rand something per minute. So you can imagine what else is going to get into that. I'm a rent payer, it's going to be affected either way.
Indaba yokudla nayo futhi nayo iphezulu. Ngoba sekudura nje ngisho inyama ebomvu even ne-braai pack. So government nayo kumele akwazi ukucabangela abantu bakhe.
Uyabona ngendlela izinto zingakhona bekukubi vele abantu babulawa indlala sinama street kids amaningi kulomhlaba njengoba ikhuphuka futhi kuyoba worse impela inkunzi sesiyobanjwa siphume emajardini.
Ukudla kuzokhuphuka kakhulu ngoba leyo izwenza ukuthi manje uthola ukuthi mawuye shop uphethe imali extra yokuthi ufanele ubhadale 15% ye VAT, and of which is going to affect us very much.
Abanye bethu siyahereza siswami yabona estrateni yabona so kuzoba nzima nakuthina abantu labo siswami abaphuwa yabona.
Kodwa kwehlisa lidvonsi lalokukhula kwentsela, hulumende umemetele ukuthi lokudla lokusekelo angeke kuthelelwe. Ngesilumbi kuthiwa ngema-zero rated basic food items. Kepha ke labanye bathi loluhlu ludinga kwengedwa.
The food that is being prescribed for the people who have got diabetes, cancer, tea and coffee, they are not zero-rized. it means that we are going to pay extra. I mean, even in sugar, we have to eat porridge with sugar, we have to drink tea with sugar, so then it means that I'm going to pay more on those items. Nowadays, data, the airtime is a basic necessity now, because you can't do anything without those.
Bathengi bangamelana kanjani naleti khathi letimatima letako?
Now it means that we have to review our budgets, make sure that we have to downgrade on some of the stuff. For example, if you used to buy 2 kg braai pack, now you have to buy 1.5 or 1 kg braai pack, in order to accommodate this extra expenditure.
Noma kusetawushuba akusho ke ukuthi bathengi bangabhadali izikweletu tabo ngoba letikweleti titawutala intsela letawenda ukuthi batitfole sebabhukusha ezikweletini letingetulu kwaleto lebakutonyalo. Zinhle Dlamini Mgabe, Yilungelo Lakho.
Asibonge kuzinhle ngalombiko. Nyalo ke kuva kabanti ke ngalokunyuka kwentsela. Asimukele ke Matthews Potgieter uvela ke eDebt Safe. Sinaye ke Nampho Likhote lovela ke eNational Treasury. Kanti ke lapha ke eKapa lodumo asibingelele ke Matthew Parks lovela ke kumbutho lomele abasebenzi iCOSATU. A very good afternoon to you gentlemen, and especially to you Matthew Parks there in Cape Town. I'm going to start with you Matthews here in Joburg. Now, can you tell us a bit more about why the government finally reached the decision to increase the VAT?
I think that was possibly the last resort that government had at the moment, having a look at the situation of the past couple of years. And I think my friend from National Treasury would be possibly the better person to answer that. Yeah. I think the most important thing that we have to understand is what is the impact going to be on the consumer? Basically, everything that you know the last day of March 2018, the next day is going to be 1% more expensive on majority of the things. And that is going to have a big financial implication on the South African consumer's pocket. And we have to warn them that 1% sounds small. And because the last time VAT was increased was in 1993, we're so used to the 14%. Right. But 1% can make a big difference on your monthly cash flow, what not even about a year over a period of 12 months. It can have quite a big effect on you.
So, Mpho, VAT increase, was it the last resort?
Yeah, I think the decision to increase VAT was not taken lightly. Basically, I mean, we looked at the financial situation in terms of our the revenue that government needed, and also looking at the number of instruments that we have in terms of raising revenue. Currently, we have value-added tax, personal income tax, and corporate tax, raising over 80% of the tax revenue. And over the past few years, we have been increasing personal income tax in order to get revenue. Now, the issue with that was that all those increases that we have been having, they have not been yielding the revenue that is required. In this current financial year, we needed to raise about 36 billion. Now, looking at all those 3 tax instruments, value-added tax was the most efficient revenue instruments to use in order to raise the revenue that we needed. And as Matthew has already indicated, that VAT was last increased in 1993, and the time was now to raise the VAT rate, because we needed the revenue. Otherwise, the financial position of our government would have been quite dire.
Right. Matthew Parks in Cape Town, let me bring you into this conversation. Do you think it could have been avoidable, this VAT increase?
Yes, look, we think it could have been avoided. We gave numerous other suggestions to government. Unfortunately, they didn't take any of those on board. I mean, for us, basically, that people like the Guptas, politicians have looted the state. They put government's finances into a crisis which threatens the entire nation. And now simply we expect the working class to pay the bill. So for us, it's an immoral issue. We would have wanted to see government cut wasteful expenditure much more, reduce cabinet, for example, reduce the blinging expenditure, get the parastatals expenditure under control, and then also to look at other taxes they could have increased. They could have increased company tax. Currently, it's about 28%, down from 35% 15 years ago. They could have increased taxes on imports, on luxury goods, but we saw none of that. What we've seen is a barrage of a tax on the working class. So we've seen a VAT hike, we've seen the fuel hike, we've seen the tax on sugar drinks, and we've even seen that the income tax brackets being adjusted below inflation levels. So really, simply that the rich are not going to suffer, We're dumping all the suffering, the bills upon the poor, and those who have looted, the state, are allowed to get away scot-free. We've seen no real effort by government to take back the stolen assets that the Auditor General, the Hawks, have all highlighted. So for us, it's quite unfair what the government has done. And as COSATU, we're rejecting the VAT hike, and we're going to push for it to be cancelled, and also for the VAT-exempt groups to be expanded to help the poor.
So in the medium to long term, how much of an impact would it have on the working class in particular?
No, basically, if you have 1,000 rand, you're going to pay an extra 10 rand in VAT. But also you must take into account the fuel hike as well, which is quite massive, and that's also going to increase the prices of consumer goods. You've also got other tax hikes, like Eskom asking for a 30% tariff hike, municipalities increasing water and electricity. So really, we're squeezing the poor left and right. At the same time, we have 36% unemployment and rising, and it's a constant battle against the poor, especially around consumer goods.
All right. Now, Mealies, just how will this VAT impact on consumers, particularly those who are under debt review?
Well, for the consumers under debt review, your repayments has been restructured already, so there will be an increase because there's an administration fee. So there will definitely be a 1% increase as well as part of debt review. But I think that what we should have a look at rather is how it's going to affect those people that have a small amount of discretionary income that we call. So after you have your income and you have paid all your service agreements or you have paid all your expenses, and now you only sit with, let's say, 200 or 300 rand left that you have as discretionary income that you can use to live. Now suddenly that amount is going to be smaller. It's going to be less because that is where the VAT is going to eat it up, which means that for people that's really sitting in that position where they are almost over indebted, this can maybe push them to be, as what we call them, over indebted South African consumer. And that is where the National Credit Act then starts to protect you. But I think that is why it's important for South Africans to really get involved in the details of their finances, know what is going up. If you have a cell phone contract, you're going to have another percentage increase. If you have a DSTV or any other contracts like that, short-term insurance, it's all going to have an increase. And how's it going to affect your bottom line at the end of the month when it comes to end of April? Consumers need to be aware of that and how much is it going to affect them.
So, Mpho, couldn't the government have pursued other avenues? You heard Matthew Parks just a short while ago that you should have increased maybe company tax or the wealth tax, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the issues that Matthew has raised are quite important issues. If you look at the issue around government expenditure and all of the wasteful expenditure that is happening, I think those are important in terms of the government taking a lead in terms of addressing all of those issues. But I think the issue is that how then do you put that in the budget in terms of the immediate need for the fiscus? Those are mostly long-term issues that need to be dealt with in terms of dealing with the wasteful expenditure, recovering money from which he referred to as being stolen and all of that. You can't put that in the budget. Those are more long-term issues that need to be addressed. We cannot put that in the budget to say we are going to recover that, because those are long-term processes that need to unfold to deal with that. And then again, the issue that he has raised about raising corporate tax. I mean, when you look at globally, what is happening is that corporate taxes are going down. Basically, it's a race to the bottom. And now, with South Africa sitting at 28% in terms of corporate tax, we are becoming an outlier in a sense that our corporate tax is a little bit high. And this is happening in the context of base erosion and profit shifting, where basically you have this, where multinationals, where basically they are shifting the profits to lower income jurisdiction. So if South Africa were to increase our corporate tax, then basically we will be fueling all the issues around base erosion and profit shifting, because now our corporate tax will be much higher. So we won't even be able to raise the revenue that we'll require, because businesses will be moving their profits to lower tax jurisdictions. So it was not a viable option to do. And then again, this must be put in the context of we're all looking for economic growth. We want to encourage investment. Now, the issue is how then, in an environment where you want to encourage investment and all of that, how then do you increase corporate tax? You know, it doesn't work out that way. And I think no, that's why we're saying that the increase on value-added tax, it was not taken lightly, as I've said, but it was the viable option at this point in time to be able to do that, because value-added tax is quite a broad-based tax. And, you know, that just 1 percentage point increase will raise about 23 billion, you know. And if you look at the magnitude in terms of the rate increase that you'll have to do on other taxes, you are not going to be able to get the same revenue. So I think it is quite important. I mean, Matthew also raised the issue about the increases on fuel taxes. Yeah, it is quite important to also mention that the 52 cents per litre increase that was announced. I mean, 30 cents of it goes to the Road Accident Fund. Currently, the Road Accident Fund is sitting with liabilities in terms of the road accident claims. And we all know that the Road Accident Fund levy is ring-fenced, meaning that the claims have to be settled from the taxes from fuel. And now that 30 cents increase basically goes towards the Road Accident Fund to settle all of those claims. And
you say VAT increase has been the only option, the only viable option. But then let's not forget that the levels of poverty in South Africa are absolutely diabolical. The unemployment rate is at an all-time high. So surely it makes absolutely no sense.
Well, I mean, the issue about, you know, increasing the VAT issues and talking about the unemployment situation, like I've indicated earlier, to say, to deal with the issues around unemployment and all that, you need to encourage investment and have economic growth to address all of those things. You don't address those things by, they say, issues around the VAT. VAT is a revenue-raising instrument. It will have an impact in terms of what people consume and all of that. Currently, in terms of the VAT system, we have 19 food items that are zero-rated. Issues have been raised to say that maybe the current 19 food items need to be looked at, to be able to look at how you cushion the impact on poor people. There's a process
I'm glad you touched on cushioning the impact. Please hold your thoughts. We'll certainly peek on that conversation shortly after the break, and we'll check in with Matthew Parks in Cape Town in just a moment. You don't want to miss what we have in store for you after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back, Mbugeli. 0117146918, Nomage 0117146919 are our participation lines, and they are open right now. Our guests are waiting to address your concerns. We are also on Facebook and Twitter. We still continue with our discussion on the VAT increase. Let me just engage you again. Before we went to that ad break, we talked about cushioning the impact of the VAT increase. How do we do that?
I mean, in terms of the current VAT system, we have 19 food items that are zero-rated. Now, this was included in the VAT system way back when the VAT was introduced in 1991, and the list was increased to 19 food items by 1993. Now, basically, the idea is that that basket represented what poor household consumed. So that's why then that basket was zero-rated. Right. Now, there's been issues to say that that 19 food items consumption patterns have changed. Maybe it needs to be looked into in terms of reviewing the list. And there's going to be a process where civil society and everybody interested will be engaged in terms of reviewing the list, to make sure that the list that we have, that we'll have at the end, represent the consumption patterns of the poor, so that you can have those items zero-rated.
All right. Now, Matthews, we talk of cushioning the impact of the VAT increase. We talk of adjusting. How do consumers adjust to the VAT increase?
Well, I think the first thing is it's just because we're so used to the 14% now, suddenly it's change, and people do not necessarily like change. But the problem is this change is really going to affect the pockets. So I think that planning budgeting is one of the most important things. As I said earlier on, people need to get involved with their finances. They need to understand where do their money flow to. Also, reevaluate things like what is my wants and what is my needs. Luxury items, maybe I don't need those kind of things anymore. Right. But I think the biggest worry is the poor of the poor, how they are going to be affected by this. And I think that is where the problem lies at the moment, or the concern lies at the moment.
Right, right. Let's go to Toy and Doi now. Paul is there. Sagumuyela ehlelweni Paul sawubona. Paul in Toy and Doi, are you there? All right, we have lost him, Paul. But let's certainly continue with our discussion. Now, let's go back to Cape Town. Paul, or rather, Matthew Parks, I beg your pardon. Matthew Parks, we talk of cushioning the impact. Just how will employees, the working class, will manage to do that?
The government should explain that one, because they're the ones who are increasing the tax across the board. Look, we've made proposals around the VAT that at least government could try to help the poor. They could expand the amount of food products exempt from the VAT. They could include medicines there, essential toiletries such as sanitary pads. They could include school books, uniforms, stationery as well. That would help the poor at least. But then also government needs to ensure that businesses don't pocket the difference if a VAT exemption comes into effect, because often you find retailers simply keep the money for themselves. But I think really the solution is for government to also just to come with a serious job program, because the long-term solution is to create jobs for our people. In this year's budget statement, only 5 departments out of 35 have any jobs targets at all. It's been years since we've heard of government talking about a plan to reduce unemployment, to ensure all workers have jobs. That's the real solution. But also Mpo talks about immediate measures. So one measure is for government to ensure that Eskom abandons its above inflation increases every year. So we have Eskom now asking for a 30% hike to NERSA. Now again, how are workers going to manage with that and a VAT hike and all the other tax hikes? So at least government can just try to assist the poor. But in essence, it seems to be abandoning its responsibility. It's allowed the Guptas and other politicians to loot the state, to put us into a state of crisis. And now it's making the workers pay for the bill.
All right. He's throwing the gauntlet on the government. What do you respond to that, Paul?
Yeah, I think Matthew raises quite important issues. I mean, that's what we have said, that basically in reconfiguring the current list of zero-rated items, because we don't regulate the pricing of these food items, there's no guarantee that the retailers and the manufacturers won't pocket the difference. So I think there's the challenge. And then we have always said, because the VAT instrument is not the right instrument to use to deal with redistributive issues or redistribution issues. That's why then you will have problems like that, because again we don't control the retail prices and all of that. And then again the issue that Matthew has raised about increases in electricity and all of that. I mean, those are regulated by NERSA, where the Eskom makes an application and NERSA makes a determination in terms of how much the tariffs can increase. Okay. And one important issue that I need to highlight is that, I mean, government has a program for free electricity, free basic water and all of that. I mean, one has to then maybe look at those programs to see how then the increases in terms of electricity that Matthew is talking about, to make sure that the programs that are there in terms of free basic electricity, free basic water and all of that, basically they are made to function. If there needs to be increased, they can be debated around those issues, because then you will cushion the poor, because then, you know, they will be shielded from the increases in electricity levy if they have, on electricity tariff, if they have free basic electricity, free basic water, they get shielded from that. Now, in terms of the working class that Matthew is talking about, I mean, what we have done in terms of the increases on personal income tax, we've always provided fiscal, what we call fiscal drag, basically for your low income earners, and I think basically the constituency that Matthew will represent, that normally we provide fiscal drag for so that you cushion against the increases in personal income tax. if there's an issue about whether that is enough or not, I think there's another debate. But we've always tried to make sure that we provide fiscal breadth so that the low-income earners are not affected by increases in inflation in terms of personal income tax increases.
All right. Millicent is on the line and she's in Soweto. Sagumwela hlelweni Millicent sawubona.
Hello, babunjani?
Siyaphila kunjani mama?
Ngiyaphila.
Siyabonga. Khuluma nasi mama.
Okay, mina like ngiyezwa ubaba uyakhuluma from the National Treasury, but I don't think increase the VAT was the only option, because like the other guy there were a lot of things that they could have increased, but it looks like suppress the poor even more, that they opted for the easy option. Because like you're saying, Mina is a poor right now. How do I look, like how do I carry on once this become effective? Because sometimes it's not only about, some of us, you get a salary and all your salary goes to a needs. You don't even have time for a want. So now what do you do then? Do you sacrifice on your needs, or what's the way forward? As much as he is saying they are looking at the long term, people that are looting the state, they're not going to be left scot-free. But they need to have a short-term plan in order for us, the poor, to be able to continue getting our needs, our daily needs from the little salary that we're getting.
All right, Millicent, you made a very valid point. Thank you so much for your call. Basically, Millicent is saying that, she's taking us back to the issue of deepening poverty with this VAT increase, that the government decided to take the shortest route and in the long term suppressing the poor.
I mean, I hear what Millicent is saying and the concern that it is raising. I mean, what we have done in this current budget, we also increased ad valorem excise taxes, that is taxes on luxury items. We increased it from 7% to 9%. So, but then the issue is that because we are looking at the few items which are luxury items, the revenue that we raise won't be sufficient to plug in the gap that we need in terms of the fiscal gap that we need. We increased that, and then also we increased the motor vehicle ad valorem. Basically, it had a cap of 25%. We increased that to 30%. But again, because you are looking at small, basically less items, the revenue that we are going to raise from there is not going to be sufficient to plug the gap. So we have increased all of some of these taxes, but again, they don't raise the sufficient revenue that we will need. Okay. And as I've indicated earlier, to say currently over 80% of our revenue comes from VAT, personal income tax, and corporate tax. So if we are going to be needing significant revenue, that's where the focus should be, because those others, a small tax instrument, they're not going to raise the required revenue that we need.
Okay, please hold that thought. We'll certainly continue with our conversation after the break. Join us after the break. You don't want to miss what we'll be discussing next. Welcome back, everybody. Don't hesitate to call us right now and right here in studio and let our guests address your concerns. Let's take a look at some of the Facebook messages that have been coming through this hour. All right, Matuso Utsi, this will add to my difficult living as I'm unemployed. No other source of income, food, water rates, and everything is going to be up. Mind you, the rich people take us for granted. Only God knows how I will survive. Temba Makubo Utsienage, can't they wait for us to budget first? Otherwise, come end of May, it will be a big problem. Guboma Shonisa. And Garth says, I think it's so wrong. Why does VAT have to go up? I understand retailers also have to make their profits and the economy, needs the money. But now this is too harsh at the moment. All right, thank you so much for your Facebook messages. Let's now go to Midrand. Nonhle is there. Sagumulela hlele nonhle sawubona.
Sawubona njani?
Siyaphila kunjani mama?
Nami ngiyaphila. It's Nonhle from Midrand. I just have one question.
Mm-hmm.
With the salary that we earn, it's too little. then you end up going to a store or your furniture stores and making having to get into debt where you buy your furniture things and $8 for at home just to take care for a family.
Okay.
My question now is that, especially to the debt expert, is to ask Uguti, is it okay to then now go to the bank and say, can you loan me money so I can settle all the debts that I have? Then with the increase of VAT, I can only have one debt to pay at the end of the month.
Right, right. Thank you so much for your call, Nonhle. She's throwing the gauntlet on you. Can they go to the bank and then get maybe a consolidated loan to pay for all the other loans?
There's institutions that obviously offer something like a consolidation loan. The one thing that the consumers need to understand, when you apply for a consolidation loan, you need to have a squeaky clean credit record. So no missteps. So you have to be an A+ student really when it comes to managing your credit. And I always say to people, there's nothing wrong with credit. Credit is sometimes a good thing. It's how you manage it. But if you are in the position where you possibly do not have a very good credit score at the moment or credit rating, and you go to institutions and they say to you that you can't afford a consolidation loan or even a personal loan or another credit card to pay off credit, the first principle is never to pay off debt with other debt. Never to borrow from Paul to pay Peter. So the National Credit Act is really there and protects the South African consumer that is over-indebted with a program like debt review or debt consolidation, where the person can get the relief of something like similar to a consolidation loan, where they pay reduced installments, all their assets are protected in a process, and that is actually a way sometimes for consumers rather to enter and to really get the reward of what the protection is in the National Credit Act.
But Matty, do you realize that it's the only viable option, particularly for the working class? Because VAT has increased, but the salaries haven't increased.
True.
Where will the extra money come from?
And it's also not just VAT that increased. We spoke about the petrol levy that's also going to increase. So the petrol levy, what we have to understand is in the value chain. So if you're going to, for instance, start buying food and bread and vegetables in your store, part of the value chain is the fuel levy, so that price is in any case going to go up. So everything is going to go up as it goes on. So that is where it becomes difficult, and I think South Africans need to be a bit more creative maybe. Have a look at different ways to save money or otherwise to make money. What can we do? We are a very creative nation. We work with our hands. There's different ways to maybe earn additional income that can help you to make sure that you can actually cushion this.
I'm interested in the point that you raised about saving money as to how we're going to do that, but I'll engage you more on that. But for now, let's go to Bizana, and Gulego is there. Gulego sawubona. Gulego and Bizana sawubona. All right, we seem to have lost Nkulego. Yeah, let's continue with that point of saving money. How do you do that in the face of what's going on already in the current status quo?
The first thing is to know what you are spending your money on. So if you have a bank statement, go through your bank statement. Go and have a look at what is possible spending leaks. So where do you overspend that you shouldn't maybe overspend? Where can you save maybe just 1 or 2 rand? Also, what I spoke about earlier on wants and needs. What is the luxuries that I do not need? So maybe try and get rid of that. See how I can also bring in additional income into my value stream or into my cash flow on a monthly basis. So there's a number of obstacles, but I think a number of options. But I think the most important thing is for South African consumers to just first get involved with their finances, know what you spend your money on, and see. Because sometimes there's money that goes out of your account and you do not even know about it. Okay. And the easiest thing is because we have this cards now, so we just swipe left, right, and center, and we don't feel that. There's a psychology of having physical money in your pocket and then taking out that 20 bucks or taking out that 50 bucks. The psychology of you seeing that money go out. But if you just swipe your debit card left, right, and center, you don't feel that money because you don't physically experiencing it leaving your pocket. Right. So working with cash is always the best idea.
Okay. Now, Matthew Parks, back to you in Cape Town. Now, there's an argument that the impact of the VAT increase will be mitigated, or rather has been mitigated by the increase in social grants, perhaps the social grants for the elderly and for the children. What do you say to that?
Yeah, look, that'll be a bit disingenuous. We have 70 million social grant recipients in the country. We're 57 million people, 95% of whom are working class or middle class. So clearly your ShopRite cashier, your mine worker, your farm worker, teachers, etc., are not on social grants. So they're not being assisted. Your working and middle class people are being squeezed more and more. And anyway, the social grant increases are simply in line with inflation. Yet we're seeing above inflation increases in tax across the board. Even Paul mentioned the issue of income tax bracket drag, that government has increased those brackets. That's not completely true. This year, for the bottom 3 income groups, they've increased it by about 3%, yet inflation is 6%. Similar things were done the last 2 years. So basically, they've taken money through a clever backdoor method. So really, in this budget, we've seen nothing to help the poor. And we're not really seeing what is government's plan to help the poor. There's no jobs plan. And again, there's other ways for government to have raised the money. They could have cut cabinet by half. Estimates are that you would save about R500 million by doing that. They could have reduced the amount of bodyguards of politicians by half. You would have saved another R1 billion there. We see daily examples of wasteful expenditure across the board. SAA spends about R100 million on subscriptions to the New Age. They're spending millions of rands on consultants. Eskom is wasting billions of rands on a daily basis through bailouts to the Gupta mines. So there's numerous ways they could have saved money. You see ministers buying new cars left, right, and centre. We've seen no effort by government to reduce wasteful expenditure in that regard. So really, if government wants the working class to suffer, we would like to see government suffer. You've seen a proposal to increase the president's salary from 2.9 to about 3.4 million rand. Again, there's ways to save money across the board there.
Okay.
You see, so yeah, that's a plea basically.
All right, let's leave it there for now. Let's take yet another short commercial break. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back, and still in discussion about the VAT increase and how it affects you. Now, Mpho, are we likely to see more of these VAT increases in the future?
Well, hopefully we won't be able to increasing VAT anytime soon. Especially if we look at the proposals that Matthew has been talking about. I think government is quite focused on that issue to deal with all of those issues. The issue around a reduction in terms of cabinet, I mean, the president mentioned the issue around a reduction in terms of the size of government and all of that. Hopefully, I mean, all of those issues will address what Matthew was raising, and also be able to again save the revenue. And then again, the issue around wasteful expenditure, I mean, this is another focus area that our principals will have to look at to make sure that they stop the leakage in the system. And again, that will be able to save the fiscus money. And hopefully then we won't be needing to increase the VAT. I mean, it took us 23 years. Actually since 1993 to increase VAT. I mean, increasing VAT, we don't take it lightly because of the issues that have been raised. Okay. So I don't see it increasing anytime soon, but I think all of those issues that Matthew has raised, I think those issues need to be addressed. Right. And that will be able to save us. But another thing in terms of sort of like looking at whether, you know, looking at the target revenue that we wanted to raise, whether then once we achieve that, are we going to sort of revert back to 14%. I think one has to look at the new proposals that have come in terms of the government programs around free fee basic higher education. I mean, that has been put on the budget. Now that needs to be funded.
So the 15% will stay? should you achieve the target?
The 15%, well, I mean, that's what we propose, and that's what we would like to see. But again, I mean, there's a parliamentary process that is dealing with the issue. So I'll leave it at that, because there's a process that is going to look at that. But, from our side, in terms of raising revenue, I think they should stay.
All right. Let's go to Durban now, and Peggy is there. Sawubona.
Yebo, sawubona baba.
Ninjani baba?
Yes, siyaphila baba, ninjani?
Siphilile baba. Khuluma nathi baba.
Ukhuluma noBheki baba. Ukhuluma noBheki Mseleku eThekwini.
Welcome. Sawubona ehlelweni baba. What's in your mind?
Yebo baba. Yeah, baba, ngicabanga ukuthi uhulumeni akazolana nathi thina esihlwempu ngokuthi agijima azonyusa iVAT ngokuthi kwabakhona ukukhwabanisa kwezimali engabuzanga kubantu bonke ngempilo yethu. Thina sinenkinga lana futhi sizoba phansi ngempela, ngeke siphinde sikhuphuke thina siphuke. Ngoba manje ama-companies esiwasebenzelayo akanyusi wona imali, kodwa i-VAT inyukile ngapha. Futhi eDurban lana basakhela ama-mall aholela kancane, ayikho izikhampani nje ezinkulu abazakhela zona njengoba singenamsebenzi emalokishini manje. Umbuzo wami, wengeke nohulumeni akwazi ukuthi adayise ngale nkampani zakwaGupta evele zenza umonakalo la abesekwazi ukuthi abuyisele imali yethu bheka ayidalisele kubantu abangakwazi ukuyithenga.
Okay. All right. Siyabonga kakhulu kusishayela Peggy. That is Peggy from Durban. Mpho, how do you respond to that?
I mean, those are, I mean, I think Matthew Parks will be in the right position to talk about the issues about increases in wages. I think, I mean, they represent the constituencies, and he can talk about their engagements with employers in terms of wage increases.
Okay.
I mean, the issue about sort of like recovery of the money that has been taken from the state, I think is something that has been looked into. How long that process will take, I mean, I can't tell. But then, and then again, in terms of then how much will be recovered, also I can't tell you that. So basically, then that's why I was saying earlier that we cannot budget on those things, because again, you know, we don't know how long they're going to take, and then also how much is going to be recovered from that. So.
Let's check in with you in Cape Town there, Matthew. We had a caller, Peggy, from Durban. He's basically talking about the fact that government is not thinking about particularly the black workers by this VAT increase. So it now leads me to my next question as to, I do understand that COSATU will be engaging on wage negotiations in April next year. So will the VAT increase issue be in consideration?
Yes, it's already been brought to the negotiations by our affiliate unions. So in the private sector, our unions are already now saying they're adding 1% to their demands for salary increases to cover VAT. Our public service unions are also going to be pushing for that with the wage negotiation with the state. Because really, why should workers have to pay the bill for those who've looted the state? So that is part of it. Our unions need to keep pushing harder, but also need workers who are not joining the unions to join the unions, because workers will only be as strong as they are united. Currently, only 1 out of 4 workers has joined a trade union. So if more workers can join it, it will help us to put pressure on employers, upon the state, etc., to come with living increases that are above inflation levels. At the same time, we have a situation where government is lambasting workers for wanting increased wage increases that are in line with inflation. So we're really in a very hard rock right now.
All right. Thanks for that, Matthew. Let's now take a final commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Mbugele. Let's now go back to Cape Town, and Matthew Parks is there for his closing comments. What are your last thoughts, Matthew?
Look, we would want government to start engaging with COSATU and unions, be it at Parliament, NEDLAC, or the Public Service Bargaining Council, on ways we can reduce state expenditure, wasteful expenditure, ways we can combat corruption, but also going forward, ways to sustain the state finances in terms of additional revenues. We feel government really has not taken us seriously and has not meaningfully engaged with us. We're hoping in the next month or so that it would have engagement with us on how to increase the VAT exempt products. But again, why do this after they've increased the VAT? So it leaves a very bitter taste in our mouth, but we're hoping going forward, government will start to engage with us in a serious manner. And then I think lastly, we're hoping to have a serious discussion around how do we create jobs at the Presidential Jobs Summit next month.
All right. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Matthews, your words of advice for consumers?
D-Day is coming, so we can't cry over spilled milk. It's 1st of April, it's around the corner. So I think what South Africans just need to do is just be aware about how it's going to affect their finances, how it's going to affect their bottom line and their cash flow, and find ways on how to save, how to make sure that you stay above the line.
All right. Mpho, your final words?
Yeah, my final words is just to say that we need economic growth, as Matthew said, and to deal with the issues of unemployment. And I think that will go a long way in terms of alleviating the poverty and inequality in South Africa. Yeah. And I think the most other important thing is that if we had not done what we did in the budget, the issues around the credit rating agencies would have been dire for South Africa in a sense that...
All right, unfortunately, we have to end it. The good sir, lokungapheli-ke kuyahlola kanjalo-ke nathi-ke sesifikile emaphethelweni elihlelweni namhla sethemba mbukeli ukuthi ucaciselekile ngalokunyuka kwensela kanti-ke futhi-ke you will adjust your lifestyle accordingly. I would like to thank my studio guests for their valuable insights. Please note that this show will repeat this coming Thursday at 10 p.m. Otherwise, you can join us again next Monday for yet another live consumer show. From me, Simpie Ngongane, and the rest of the team, thank you for watching. Have a blessed week. Cheers.
Legumes